part of our mission takes us to Epic Fitness Solutions, the facility in Eugene, Oregon. We had the amazing opportunity to interview the owner, Will.
Okay, so, you grip up, get a good grip, grab my hand. Okay, so, well, just the basics of arm wrestling is there is side pressure, but it's in a pull. So you're gonna pull.
Oh, this way.
Yeah, you pull me and stretch me out. Then I have to fight to get back in, because if I get stretched out, I'm more vulnerable to being pinned. And if you can get me stretched out faster.
So you're trying to go here.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're trying to do. So the faster you can do that, and then as you do it, you want to wrist curl.
Like that?
Yeah, and drive your hand down.
So like this? That's
I drive down like that. You feel that pressure on your wrist? So I drive down like that as I'm pulling.
Like this.
And you pull hard, yeah, because you want to try to push them down while you're pulling. So I'll get to a pull right here, and then I'm like, and then they pull back on me, and then I'm like, okay, fine, and then I'm like, I'll just drive down on that. Okay. And then eventually that extra pressure.
It almost feels like you're cutting my injury.
Yeah, so then that extra pressure on a person, they're not only trying to pull, now they're trying to pull up against all that. It'll wear their tendons out faster, so they'll tire faster. And so if you can just hold like that, sometimes that's all I need to do is just hold like that for 20 seconds or whatever, and just keep grinding a little bit more, and then you can just grind somebody down. Like on a pro level, if you're competing against another good pro, a lot of it comes down to who hits the person hardest in the beginning.
Who gets that?
When they say go, who's the fastest off the go?
So who gets the guy going down?
Yeah, a lot of time the whoever gets that start usually has a really good chance of finishing it. Although there are guys that can catch and then pull their way back. But anyway, so we get in these grind matches and stuff like that. If you catch and you're pulling your way back, you want to learn how to use technique to kind of wear your opponent down faster, and the wrist and hand, because that's really what this is a battle of the wrist and the hand, Okay. And then the forearm gets tired because the ligaments in here aren't strong enough. For your opponent's ligaments are stronger or whatever. Their technique, they know how to use everything better. So yeah, dude, arm wrestling's a lot of fun because person versus person. So I might be stronger than you down there with lifting a weight over my head, but on the arm wrestling table, you might be stronger than me because you have this like other ability. So it's a different kind of strength to have.
And it is. Yeah, it's man versus man.
It's not
a weightlifting competition.
It's not like it's 500 pounds. It's always different because the pressure you provide on every match is always different. So that's what's so fun about arm wrestling is it's like, even in practice, sometimes I lose to the guys. Most of the time I win, but sometimes I lose, and so it's like some of that,
Is it more strength, you think, or technique?
Oh, both. You have to have both. But technique will help you like how I'm grinding and stuff like that, but you still got to be strong enough to put it on. Like if you're not strong enough, somebody's power can overcome your technique, because I've done that too. If I get you in the press, there's no matter how much technique you have, you're not getting out of that unless your press unless your top roll is stronger than my press. Sometimes all you get is like a little knuckle. When I was arm wrestling Devin Lorette.
Oh, you arm wrestled?
Yeah, when I beat him.
You beat him?
In the straps twice. I got video of it. Yeah.
He's one of the best arm wrestlers in the world.
Yeah. So anyway, I had him in my press, and he was top rolling hard, which is rotating up into this move.
Yeah.
He top rolled hard right into this knuckle right here.
Yeah.
And then I drove him down with just that knuckle pressure.
Oh, so that was just catching right there.
He caught me, and all I had was this knuckle right here. And I drove my knuckle into his wrist like that. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
When you go hard, I go hard, and I drive really hard. But just that one little spot, and I found a weakness in his wrist, and I was able to drive him down to the pad.
He beat John Brzezinski, didn't he?
Now I'm not saying I can beat John Brzezinski or any of those guys, but
he's the greatest arm wrestler ever, isn't he?
Yeah, but but that's another thing. It's like fighting. it's like if you've ever done a cage fight or whatever. So I did, a cage fight, but it's like I can beat you, you can beat him, but I can't beat him.
Yeah. It's the styles makes
so
matches.
Styles too, so he had never felt a position like what I did. And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, you feel that? And he was like, yeah, I felt it. He felt what I did.
Now, Devin, he was a special forces guy before,
yeah,
right?
so was I, man. So
yeah.
I had paid for him to, well, not me personally, but a group of us, we all put together and had him come do a seminar.
Oh,
we all
wow.
paid to have him come do a seminar here at the gym. And then that day, everybody that wanted to arm wrestle, I had people from all over Washington and all over Oregon and stuff that came to get a chance to pull him.
So you were a ranger, right?
Yeah.
You were an Army Ranger?
Yeah.
So what was your journey like? How'd this all come to be?
Oh, yeah. Well, I got started when I was 15. Okay, if we go way back in the beginning. This goes back even further to when I was 5. When I first saw the movie Conan the Barbarian when I was 5 years old, I watched it. My parents had rented it or whatever, and I remember watching it. I wasn't supposed to or whatever, but I watched it. And I was like,
Arnold.
I seen that, and I was like, I want to be like that. And then from that point on, I'd say until I was 15, I played sports trying to find that. I tried wrestling. I tried a lot of different sports, and I didn't. It didn't happen. I didn't grow any, Because I'm 88 pounds as a sophomore in high school, dude. That's small, I started working out at the gym, and from that point on, I realized that this is how I'm going to figure myself out, is in the gym. From the very beginning, from even the first day, I realized that I wanted to also know what my true physical potential was in every angle. I wanted to see if I could be like an elite athlete. And so I tried powerlifting when I was 17. I did a bench press competition, but then I wanted to join the military because I wanted to leave all this, leave the town that I grew up in.
Where'd you grow up?
Springfield.
Okay.
I grew up here.
You wanted to get out.
Because I didn't feel like this was a good place for me. I didn't really have any friends, and I didn't know. I felt like I wasn't smart enough to go to college. I thought I would fail college. And so I was like, I need to go in the military. I need to do what my dad did.
So you went in the infantry.
Yeah, I went infantry, and just like my dad. But then, when I was in basic training, I was so good physically. I was physically the fittest guy there. I loved working out, so I was always working out on my free time. We had an hour every day to write letters or do your laundry, and I'd go downstairs with my laundry and go outside and work out on the fucking pull-up bars and the dip bars. And the drill sergeants see that. And I always did it. I was always doing curls with the mop buckets full of water and with a broomstick in between, doing curls like that because you didn't have weights in basic. So I would make weights. Then I got creative, man. I did whatever I could but to me, joining the military was not only a way out, but it was a way to get paid to work out. Because I was like, from the very, very beginning, I was like, I need to find a way to get paid to work out. And so I made it through airborne school, and then I went on to Ranger indoctrination program and made it through and became a Ranger, and then went on to Ranger Battalion where I served there. That was a good time, but again, all I ever really wanted was to lift weights, and so going to all these schools and doing all this stuff was was getting in the way of my lifting. And then I always lifted after work. Like after we got off work or after the day was done, I'd go to the gym, the Ranger gym. We had our own exclusive gym right there on our compound. Man, that's a trip too, to be a part of something so special that you have your own compound within a base, you know. And these bases are like little cities. So I like to go to the gyms and work out at different gyms, you know. That's what I did when I was younger. That's
How big were you at that time?
Oh yeah, good question. Yeah, when I went into basic training, I was 145 pounds. So from the time I started lifting, it took 13 months to gain my first 10 pounds. But then by the end of my first year, I'd gained a total of 20. By the end of my third year, I'd gained 25 more. And so like I worked my way up to 145 pounds. So right before I joined the military, I already put in like 2.5 years of lifting, and I went from 88 to 145 on my own, and in 2 years, and I really was
So
just
you almost
looking
doubled in size. Not
almost,
quite.
yeah, right, yeah. I put a lot of size on, but I was still really small.
Yeah.
And then by the time I joined the military, I was 145. By the time I left the military, I was 185. So I put 40 more pounds on. And then from the time I got out of the military in 2002, November 2002, I was 185 till currently now I'm 245.
So what'd you do right out of the military?
I started going to school. I went to school. I was going to school for human physiology. And I was also working. I worked part-time at Blockbuster Video. I was going to school at the time, so I just needed a part-time job to make, so I could have money to have fun with.
Yeah. While you go to school, yeah.
Yeah, because I was using the GI Bill that I earned from being in the military.
So it was just a little extra cash.
Yeah, so I wasn't living off of that. That wasn't enough. It was a minimum wage job, part-time. So it was just like spending money, but I wanted to have spending money.
You were really like Rambo working at Blockbuster.
Yeah, if you can imagine that. Can you believe that? I think about that myself. I'm like, wow, how is that? That's crazy.
So at that point, did you have a vision to start a gym? I mean, what was your aspiration?
No way,
what
dude.
were you thinking?
I mean, I didn't even have the confidence to be a personal trainer, dude. When I first got out of the Army, I took a personal trainer test. I thought I was all that, because I'd been lifting for like 6 years or something like that. 6 years under my belt, and I thought I knew so much about lifting. I couldn't even pass the test, dude. Even though I know how to get results. Yeah. I can't tell people how to do that. All I did was my main vision was I wanted to be an athlete. So I focused on trying to be an athlete for years.
So you had that in your mind though, to do bodybuilding.
Yeah, I always wanted to be built, the idea for the gym, that didn't really happen until around 2009. I was 28 then. And then I started thinking about what it would be like to have a gym. Man, if I had my own gym, this is what I would do,
Because all you're doing is training all the time.
Yeah, so then I was like, if I had my own gym, and I was like, yeah, but that'll never happen because you gotta have all this money to make this happen and all this stuff, and I didn't know, and really all I needed at the time was just more self-confidence that I guess you just piece it together one piece at a time. And that's what I did here at this gym. I pieced it all together, just one piece at a time. I just get more and more every year, And then
when did you start competing?
That was 2004. I was 23. I didn't plan on competing until I was 24, but I was 23. I had gotten out of the Army and wanted to train for a full year before I attempted to compete.
And that was in bodybuilding?
Bodybuilding, yeah.
So
I won my
first
contest.
thing you did?
Yeah.
You won it?
I won my first contest, yeah.
What contest was that?
It was the Oregon Ironman Natural back in 2004. The 2004 Oregon Ironman Naturally. And
That's
I won
awesome.
the novice. I won the novice middleweights at 176. Remember, I'm 245 now.
Yeah, so you were a 176 pound bodybuilder.
I cut down to 176.
Natural bodybuilder.
Yeah. And then when I got into strongman, I realized strongman was just the sport for me, because I didn't have to look a certain way. All that mattered was how much weight I could lift, if I could do it the fastest or the most. And I was like, so you can look however you want, but obviously the better shape you're in, the more weight you're going to be able to lift. So it's important to eat right so you can have energy to be in the right kind of shape to lift these weights, because you need to be fast, you need to have cardiovascular health. I mean, there's so much that goes into, you got to be strong everywhere. So there can't be no weaknesses. So that consumes you, dude. Like, I got consumed with it. All I cared about was being as good as I could be in every event and lifting as much as possible in every event, as fast as possible in every event, And then eventually you get to the point where I'm at now, where I'm like, I just can't do it like that anymore. My body just will not cooperate with me like that anymore. It just takes a toll, dude. Like I'm like, it's crazy too, because I never thought it would happen. I thought for sure I was going to be the one that would be the invincible one. But I think every athlete that is trying to fight for that, their supreme best, believes that about themselves, because you have to kind of push yourself to do all this stuff, and to compete in all these different sports at these high levels and lift all these weights and But that also drove me to make all this gym happen, because I wanted to have my own spot, and I wanted to have the most unique spot, and I wanted to have training tools that no one else had, and I wanted to be the real deal. I wanted to be the guy that was like, whoa, Will, the guy that does like everything.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't just say, oh, I did this at this time in my life. He's always doing new things, you know?
Yeah, because so you did bodybuilding, and then did you...
Strongman.
You went straight from bodybuilding. Did you ever do any more contests in bodybuilding, or just one?
I did 4 contests. I did 3 in a row, 3 years in a row. I won my first one, then I went open, light heavyweight, took third my second year. Then I went open light heavyweight my third year, where I was the heaviest guy on stage at 196. And I got 7th, and I was so mad and disappointed because I trained so hard for that. My first full power meet was in 2014, actually, but I told the elite. I told the elite in my first, and I won the show too.
Yeah.
You know, so I had the heaviest total that day by 3 pounds. I lost in the squat by a lot. I lost in the deadlift by a lot, but my bench press was so much better than the other guys that gave me what I needed, and theirs was so bad in comparison to their deadlift and squat that I was able to pull out a 3-pound victory, dude. I won by 3 pounds. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did strongman build you up to powerlifting, or were you doing powerlifting training for strongman? Like,
yeah, I did squat and deadlift and bench and all that.
How did your training transition from bodybuilding
I still
into strongman?
Yeah, okay. I used all of it. So I started training strongman specifically with a buddy of mine in Monmouth. So it was like an hour and a half drive every Saturday. So I would drive an hour and a half every Saturday, even with my infant daughter, back then in 2010. And I'd put her in the little square, I'd open it up and let her stay there while I trained. And I would train at Western Oregon University in the parking lot out there with my buddy Alex Whitaker. He was the strength coach at the time, and he had a bunch of strongman equipment there. And so I would come out there every Saturday for like 2 years. I drove up there to train because I didn't have my own stuff. He had all the things that I really needed to get good at strongman. But here's the thing: the stones that he had. Oh no, he only had 1 stone. It was a 335-pound stone, and that's all we had. And so every time we did stones, it was like always at the end after we did a heavy log and a heavy yoke, and then we would try to attack this 335-pound stone raw, cold every time. Like no warm up. There's no 250-pounder or 200-pound stone warm up. So that's when I saw the flaws of not having enough of the right equipment. So when I built this gym, I was like, I want to have equipment that I can accommodate the weakest person up to the strongest person.
And build them up.
Yeah, and have a lot of different goals. So, okay, so you hit the 95-pound stone, the 120 is next. The 120 stone, the 160 is next, or whatever, So it's like
you don't have to just hit a 330-pound.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of stone. I got a lot of equipment down there for that very reason, because I wanted to be able to, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do it at a high level forever. I'm not going to be able to just lift that 400-pound stone every time. Eventually, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. So I want to have smaller goals that are still challenging, like maybe hit the 350 for a double for as many years as I can keep that up.
I found out about you because you were training Shorty Weichel, right?
Yeah, he was a client of mine for years.
You were training Shorty Weichel, and so then I started paying attention. I started watching videos. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, you had a video of you squatting 225 for 100 reps. And I'm like, who does that? I've never heard of anyone ever doing this in my entire life. Like, who is this guy? And then you're squatting, I think, 315 for 50, 405 for...
20. Those were. I did 455 for 20 as my heaviest ever 20 rep.
455 for 20, 500 for like 10, no belt, no knee wraps. I mean, you got tons of videos of that.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I've never seen. You did a 500-pound deadlift for like 50.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
That was a hard workout. I remember what I felt like after that. Yeah, man. I was just. Because that was just what I'm good at, I was just, I felt like I want to show the world what I'm good at as far as like weightlifting. I'm like, I might not be able to lift the heaviest single rep max, but I have some really good endurance. So I can fucking grind out some really good weight for a rep.
Like the craziest muscular endurance of anyone I've
Yeah,
ever seen.
so I was like, I wanted to, you know, the whole 225 for 100 rep video, that is what started all that. The
Really?
20 rep squats and the 50 rep squats. There's a guy, a pro strongman, who he squatted 405 for 20 reps one day, and he posted a video of it, and he was wearing a belt and everything, and I was like, and he was wearing all. I think he may even he was a pro strongman. He was a heavyweight pro strongman. He was over 300 pounds, like 320 pounds at the time or something like that. And I was like, I could do better than that. And I was getting ready for a bodybuilding show. This is in 2013, so I'm like 220 at the time. And I'm like, I can do better than that, and I'll beat your depth. And he was like, if you do that, I'm gonna squat 600 for 20. And I'm like, deal. 2 days later, I sent him the video. Hey, I did it. And he was like, holy shit. So he was shocked. I was supposed to get a sweater out of that, but I never got. Anyways, but then I was like, oh yeah, I was like, because he said that there was a buddy of his that tried it and failed at 98. And I was like, yeah, well, I'll do an even 225, and I'll make the 100, and I won't fail. And when I hit 100, I had like, in my mind, I had like 30 more reps than me. I could have done 30 more if I needed to.
Wow.
You know, I was like, no problem. I was so like, fucking, yeah, I fucking did that shit. But I can tell you this though, at 30 reps, I wanted the weight off my back. When I hit 30, I was like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, I've done 225 for like 30, and I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
It was too painful.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
This hurts
I was like,
so
this
bad.
sucks. So you can imagine.
That's why I couldn't believe it. I was like, how does he do 100? That doesn't even make sense to me.
Well, I mean, you can see it building. I mean, I'm in pure pain. Like when I'm at 50, I'm like, 50, yeah, baby. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Once I hit 55, I knew I was like, I'm gonna make the next 45. I'm gonna make the 100. I was counting by 5, so I told myself 20 sets of 5.
Oh, in your head.
In my head. That's how I did it. I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Okay, you're on set 11. Okay, get to set 12. You know,
just
like
never rack it.
Yeah, well, that was the whole idea. I was like, I'm gonna hold. It took me 7 minutes and 11 seconds. You know, and I remember when I got to 60, like I could feel like I never felt my spine before buzzing like this, but I could feel from the like the tip of my skull here in the back, all the way to the tip of my tailbone. I could feel my whole spine was all fucking like lit up, the whole fucking back. And I can also feel like fat melting off my face. I felt fat burning off my face as I'm doing it. I could, because all this energy systems, like I burned through all my liver glycogen, and I was burning through all my muscle glycogen, you know, trying to make these reps happen. I'm trying to focus on breathing, trying not to lose my balance, because that will zap the shit out of me if I have to reposition myself.
Yeah.
So trying to stay steady at all times, you know, like staying in the same exact movement, focusing on my breathing, and not thinking about pain.
Has anyone else ever done that? I've never seen
No, there's no other video of John Allen did 218. He did it in kilograms. He did 218 for 98 because he weighed 218. But I weighed 219 and did 225 for 100.
You're the only person who's ever done it.
I got video, and I was like, I got video proof. I got video proof of me weighing in, so you can see that I really did weigh 219. So I weighed in.
You didn't
on
use a belt or anything. You were like, no belt, nothing.
Yeah, well, because I knew a belt would actually constrict me. It would actually be worse to wear a belt. You want your fucking stomach. So I knew I was gonna want to fucking be able to expand my stomach as much as I needed to when I got really tired. Because I also knew 225 ain't heavy. To me, I was like 225. I could do that. I don't give a shit how tired I was. I could crank out 5 reps no matter how tired I was. You know the 315 for 50? Do you know I hit 2 sets of 35 before that. I tried a set of 35. My first set, I got to 35 and I was like, I couldn't take it anymore. I racked it. I was like, what the fuck? I get up under the 315 5 minutes after I just did 235 for 30, or after I did 35 reps and failed at 35. I gave myself 5 minutes. I was like, okay, we're gonna fucking do this time. I was going for 100. I wasn't even trying for 50. God. And I do it again, and I fucking get to 35, and I'm like, I couldn't take it. I was like, oh my fucking God. I was like, what the fuck? I had to go to a business meeting. So I went to a business meeting, and the whole meeting I'm thinking about this lift. I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get 100 with 315. Fuck. But I was like, okay, but you're gonna go back and you're gonna hit 50 with no belt. That's how you're gonna make up for this shit.
The same day.
So yeah, just a couple hours after I hit 30, well, my last set of 35. So I did 70 reps already with it, and then I'm like, I come back a couple hours later and I'm like, okay, and I had my buddy with me because I was training him. He was a fighter, Casey Lasley, and I was training him, but I was like, I needed to hit this set of squats first. So he films me, and I hit those squats with no belt at my house in my backyard and shit. And then I fucking was just like, yeah, I fucking did that shit. But I was in pure pain. That was a lot of pain. I was a lot of pain. The one that caused the most pain, where I felt like I couldn't stand, was the 455 for 20. I couldn't even take a step forward with that to rack it. I couldn't even rack it. I had to dump it off my back because my core was so wobbly from hitting those reps. When I hit, like, I don't even know how I got from 16 to 20, because I was like in a whole nother zone. I'd hit 455 for 15 one other time in my life when I was like 29, and I hadn't hit it again for years. So I'm fast forward, I'm 32, so it's been 3 years since I had done this, and here I am trying to break that. 15 took everything I had, so I hit 15, and I'm like, don't think about nothing, fucking just go again. And
just go.
Don't think, because if you think, holy shit, this is hard, then it's going to get really hard.
So that's the hardest one you ever did, the hardest set of your life.
The 455 or 20 was the hardest squat I've done, besides the 225 per 100. The heaviest squat I've ever done was not as hard as the 455 for 20. The squatting heavy is that one big burst of like 10 seconds worth of effort.
What's the heaviest squat you've ever done?
675 in the gym, and then I attempted a 660 2 years ago, but it got red lighted. But I mean, I looked at the depth, and I felt like I was good enough, but you know, you got judges looking at you from other angles, so they see things that you don't see, you know. So for me, that was probably my best ever squat, that 660, even though it didn't get counted by the judges, or I think one judge counted, the other two didn't.
But you won your first powerlifting meet, you said.
I still totaled the lead at that tournament 2 years ago. Yeah, I still won the contest. I still had the heaviest total. I had like a 1770 total or something like that. I mean, it's not like, but for this area, that's good, you know. I started doing all this other stuff to make myself better at strongman. So arm wrestling was only because it would force me to work on my grip, because I felt like my grip was weak in strongman. So I was like, how am I going to train my strongman but train hard enough, because I can't see myself just doing wrist curls. I got into it to help my strongman be better, because remember, I was really committed to being a champion like as good as I could be for as long as possible.
So you did Highland Games too?
Highland Games, yeah. My buddy Mark Wechter got me into that. He's like my strongman mentor, or one of them. He lives up in Oregon City, up in Portland, but he's a world champion Highland Games thrower. And he was also a former lightweight pro strongman.
And so what else have you competed in?
Moss wrestling, which is this, where you wrestle over, you have a stick, like this board right here. You see this board? I'd be on one side.
I think I've seen this, where you get the sticks.
And the sticks right there, and then you try to pull your opponent onto your side, or you pull the stick out of their hand, or you pull them off balance, where they roll off the board. And strongman, I competed for, from 2005, for 13 years. I got 13 years out of my career at strongman.
And now you're coaching people.
Yeah, training, coaching, all that. Yeah.
So you built this gym, and now you're coaching other competitors and teaching people how to.
Yeah, remember, like I said, I built this gym out of a necessity so that I could also be a better strongman and be a better athlete. And I also knew I wasn't going to do it forever, so I knew if I was going to build something, I wanted to be able to build something that I could also teach other people how to use. Cause I like seeing people use my stuff. I like seeing people in here doing stones, or seeing videos of people doing stones, or farmer's walks, or pulling trucks, or whatever. I have all that equipment, so I love seeing people set it up and use it. It's cool, man. In the beginning, I said I didn't have the confidence to become a trainer when I first got out of the Army. You might think like, oh, well, you were a ranger and all that. Yeah, I was confident in certain things, but like school stuff still, intimidated me. And so, especially failing that test, I didn't get the confidence to try again for 7 more years. But 7 years later, I tried again and I passed the most prestigious one that you could get, the National Academy of Sports Medicine. So I passed that test. It took me 6 months of studying to pass that test, and I did it. I did it all. And that made me believe that I really was meant for this life. And so when that mindset clicked in, then it was like, okay, the dream is back on.
Will's story was amazing. It simply defined what gameness means.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's it. Control it. That's it. Yeah, nice job, Scotty. All the way past the cone. All the way past the cone. Past the cone. Past the cone. All right. Yeah, baby.
Irish Fighter by Brittany Ayala. My Irish fighter with the warrior tides. You took no prisoners, you told no lies. I dressed in black and then I cried. But in my heart, you'll never die. My sister wrote that after my best friend in high school got murdered. Nothing is promised to you in this life. Right at 265, just got to keep it under 265 for this fight. Here is named the Rubish deadlift with weights. It's named after my powerlifting coach, Pete Rubish. He does deadlifts here with weights. He can lift a lot more, but that exercise is actually named after him. That's why I got this. Right here, it says art is greater than science. And I was listening to Charles Poliquin talk once, and it was just one of my favorite things I ever heard, because he said that the science always follows the art. You have to experiment. You have to experiment over and over again until you prove something to be scientific information. The art is the experimentation, which always precedes the science. And I really liked that a lot. And my own training, I got really into the science and how you should train. And I got so into it that I stopped training actually with weights. I completely stopped training because I wanted the perfect workout so badly that I couldn't even train unless if I did the perfect workout. And that quote kind of inspired me to let go of trying to make everything perfect and to practice the art and to experiment myself and note the different aspects of training, different things that I learned, the different sometimes you have to make adjustments that maybe the science isn't going to tell you in a book exactly, but you make those adjustments and you learn like, oh, that's from real world experience that it helps to do this or that to get that science, to get to that point. And that even becomes the science. However, there's a guy that I've been talking to, his name's Justin Harris. I started listening to him a lot and I connected with him. I'm gonna start working with him after this fight on my nutrition. So Justin Harris, I've been talking to Justin Harris. I'm gonna do my nutrition with him after this fight. And Justin's making me believe in science again. He's just the most brilliant mind in nutrition that I've ever heard, and he breaks things down as absolute undeniable truths. This is my certifications. I got this one under Tom Platz. Tom Platz actually trained me to get that. And Fred Hatfield, the founder and president of the ISSA, I got to talk with him, become friends with him, and he mentored me as well. This certification, I don't believe that they offer it anymore. It's from the International Association of Resistance Trainers. And this is kind of the training philosophy that I prescribe to, high intensity training. That is my bread and butter. That's what I've done more than anything. That's what tends to work best for me. This here is Paul Anderson. Paul Anderson was an Olympic weightlifting gold medalist. And Paul Anderson is said to have been the strongest squatter to ever live. A lot of well-known weightlifting world champions witnessed him do things like squat 900 pounds for 10 reps with no belt, no knee wraps, without a warm-up, really rapidly. Otherworldly things he could do, and people, they testified to it. It wasn't official. They didn't even have official powerlifting back then, but he basically did powerlifting to build his strength up to become an Olympic weightlifting world champion. Train like you fight. I wrote that up there because I had a really bad habit. I don't know where it came from. I think just trying to be overly technical, but with my mixed martial arts training, I had a habit of going really lightly and not going hard, and just trying to work on my technique and be super technical. And I don't know why, I just thought that would be the best method. I don't know where I got that from, trying to master my technique. But I realized because of my powerlifting that I would never do that with my powerlifting. I've never come to the gym and just worked technique really light, ever. I've always gone really heavy. I've always gone really hard, and it works. And I don't think it would work at all to just try to work on my technique. Here's Benedict Magnuson. He's the world record holder in the deadlift. He deadlifted 1,015 pounds raw. That's why he got a place here on my wall. I believe Pete Rubish will break that record eventually. You could say that Eddie Hall has the world record in the deadlift. He does. Eddie Hall might be the strongest man who ever lived, possibly. But he did it in powerlifting rules where you could use straps. So it's a little bit different. This is just a raw powerlifting record. Eric Spoto, one of the most phenomenal bench pressers of all time. He had the world record. 722 pound raw bench press, and his bench press is just flawless, and that's why I wanted to put him up there as an inspiration. To me, he did it with such ease. He seemed to be the greatest bench presser of all time. His record was broken though by Kirill Sarachev, who bench pressed 738 pounds. I think Eddie Hall could have possibly broke that record as well, but he just doesn't really care for powerlifting that much. Bill Kazmaier is a guy that I've gotten to talk to, become friends with. He's a Christian man, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. He told me that that's his favorite verse. Bill Kazmaier is widely considered the strongest man to have ever lived, the greatest strongman competitor of all time. He was so dominant, he won 3 World's Strongest Man titles, and they didn't invite him back again because they wanted more competition amongst the other competitors. They didn't invite him, so what he did was he traveled the world and he broke all these strength world records, and he didn't train for them. That, to me, that's the strongest man, is a guy who could do something and he's not training specifically for that skill or that event. So he would go and do these tests of strength, and he didn't train for them at all specifically, and he would break the world record. That's why I think he is the greatest of all time. I got some jiu-jitsu medals over here. I hung those up. I've competed a ton in jiu-jitsu, and those are just medals that I didn't lose, that I still have. I have a picture of Ronnie Coleman there behind the bars, and it says lightweight baby. After Arnold Schwarzenegger, I would say that Ronnie Coleman was my biggest inspiration, and he became my favorite bodybuilder of all time, and I would consider him the greatest bodybuilder of all time. He's the strongest Mr. Olympia ever. He's a Christian man as well, and a very humble person that lost a lot before he started to win, and then when he won, he just dominated from that point forward. Here's my rooster. My Rise Gym banner, and it says Proverbs 18:10. That verse says, "The name of the Lord is a strong tower, the righteous run to it and are safe." I put that up there because the first question I ever asked Pete Rubish was, "What's your favorite Bible verse?" That's before he started coaching me, and I put that up there for him because he's a huge inspiration to me as a human being, you know, as a Christian, and as a strength competitor. Pete Rubish is my favorite. He's my favorite weightlifter or powerlifter ever. He's the most intense. My thing's always been about intensity. That's kind of the training philosophy or style that I use. And Pete Rubish is the most intense competitor I've ever seen. I installed this washer and dryer to motivate and inspire me to be more like my coach, my powerlifting coach, Pete Rubish. He trained in a dungeon with a washer and dryer behind him and gained energy and strength from it. So I installed this to be more like my coach as much as I could, and then we just decided to start doing laundry because we have a washer and dryer in here. Might as well do some laundry. Pete is, I think he's the fourth, he is the all-time highest total in powerlifting for the 242 pound weight class. He totaled, I think, 2,200 pounds. I got to a point in my training where I had plateaued. My lifetime goals were to squat 600 pounds, bench press 500, and deadlift 700. On my own, I did get my squat up to 600 pounds. My bench press plateaued at 455 pounds, and my deadlift was 600 pounds. Within 10 weeks of working with Pete Rubish, I had gained the 100 pounds on my deadlift, and I deadlifted 700 pounds. And then the next 10 weeks, I took my bench press from 455 pounds to 500 pounds with much improved form as well. My form was pretty loose, and powerlifting, competitive powerlifters have very strict standards. And Pete Rubish, he made me pause my bench presses. It was very important to do things the correct way. His standards very high, and I was very impressed with his professionalism, with how he conducted himself. He gave me warm-up routines. He went above and beyond to help me in every single aspect. And the biggest thing I took away from working with Pete was how conservative he was. He's really known for being a guy that will attack the weights ferociously and go for crazy PRs and break records, and especially in the deadlift. He lifts weights that are unbelievable, especially for a guy his size. Pound for pound, he's probably the strongest deadlifter of all time. But he was very conservative when he trained me. I think the biggest reason that I had plateaued in my training myself was I was trying to jump 50 or 100 pounds all the time. I would go from plate to plate to plate and maybe throw a 25 on there. But Pete, every single workout, he was making these 10-pound adjustments, and I was working with weights 10 pounds every week. And he was very diligent, very methodical, very professional. And I started working with Pete because I needed help from somebody that knew what it was like to lift these heavy weights and had experience in it. Because I realized that you can have all these theories and you can have all these ideas, but if you don't have the experience, you don't know what you're talking about, in terms of you just haven't gone through it, so you don't know what it feels like. You don't know the things that you have to take care of. You have to take care of your shoulder health. You have to warm up properly. He had me doing a really extensive warm-up routine, and he helped me to achieve my lifetime goals within literally 20 weeks. So these were the goals I had set for my entire life. That's all I wanted to do. The reason was because those are the weights that Arnold Schwarzenegger lifted, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was the guy that got me inspired into training with weights and really got hooked on it, because I was a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, and I wanted to lift the weights that Arnold Schwarzenegger lifted. And those were his numbers. Arnold Schwarzenegger squatted 600, benched 500, deadlifted 700, and I wanted to lift the same weights. And that was my goal in my lifetime. I said, I want to lift the same weights Arnold did. But I had set that for a bucket list type of thing. And literally within 20 weeks, Pete Rubish took me all the way there. And I'm so grateful. He's such a great coach, such a great person. Here I have a quote from my longtime coach, Sam Sleezer. When I trained with Sam, I really went to him with the mindset. My first coach, Matt Rupert, he's the one that sent me to Sam. And in my mind, Sam was going to be my Customato. I was like, I'm going to go and train with Customato, and I'm going to be Mike Tyson. And he's going to be my mentor. He's going to tell me everything to do, and he's going to completely train me in everything in life and fighting, and be my mentor for everything. And shockingly, for me, Sam refused to do that. And Sam would always tell me that he couldn't think for me, he couldn't realize things for me, and he would tell me that I had to think for myself. And that was really the biggest lesson I learned under Sam Sleezer, was to think for myself. He was like, you need to make your own decisions in life, you need to think for yourself, you need to realize things for yourself, you need to figure out things for yourself. I'm not going to give you all the answers and tell you what to do. And it was really hard for me to go through that, actually. That wasn't an enjoyable experience, because I really wanted him to almost be like a Navy SEAL drill instructor to me. And he wasn't like that at all. He was not like that. He was there for me, but he would not play that role. And over the long haul, I realized that that was the greatest thing he could have ever done, because it made me more of a self-sufficient type of person. Whereas if you do look at like a Mike Tyson, when Cus D'Amato died, it was very traumatic and tragic for him, and he didn't know how to cope with it. He wasn't prepared to think for himself. So I'm really thankful for that message. That's one of the biggest messages of my life. That's why I put it up there. Over here, Moop, he's the one that sent me to Sam. Matt Rupert, his nickname was Moop. Who's the man? And with Moop, everything's about manliness. Everything's about manliness. And if I said, hey, you know, here's this strong man, Axel, Moop would say, let's see who can lift it. Let's see who's the man. And he was always like that about everything. Everything was like, who's the man? And it was, if we were working together, he'd say, let's see who could work harder. Let's see who's the man. I got a great story about Sam Sleezer. It's one of my favorite stories about being a fighter that Moop told me. He said that when they were really young, Sam was sitting in the back of a pickup truck, and this guy, I won't say his name, I actually like the guy, I got to know him. He's a monster of a man, 6'5", 285 pounds. He used to be a linebacker on the Oakland Raiders. He came up because everyone was talking about how tough Sam was, because Sam was a boxing champion. And this guy came up behind Sam when he wasn't looking and punched him in the side of the head. He sucker punched him. Boom! And Sam went down in the back of the truck. And I've talked to Sam about this. And Sam, he said he was laying in the back of the truck and he got hit so hard, he said he was like, I should just stay down. I should just stay down. And he said that he couldn't. He couldn't stay down. It wasn't within him. He had to get up. And Moop tells the story that Sam got up out of the pickup truck and there was a basketball court that everybody would go to fight. And as Moop put it, he said that's where they would go to see who's the man. And he said that Sam got up out of the back of that pickup truck and said, let's go to the basketball court to see who's the man. And the biggest way to be the man is to get to somebody that doesn't even want to find out who's the man. And Moop said that the guy was like, nah, I don't want to fight. And so, you know, Moop had spent time in prison, and he said that's like, you know, he used to say is that's being punked out. He got punked out. And in prison, that's the worst thing you could do is be punked out. The best thing you could do is to always stand up and fight. And that was really what it was like being with these guys. It was, you know, just trying to prove that you're down and that you're willing to stand up and fight for yourself. And that's one of my favorite stories, though, about Sam. And I can say that Sam absolutely is the man.
Scott still trains in powerlifting and strongman. He is currently looking for a fight to determine who's the man. This is Gameness.